Woo! Let's do it. All right, ready. So 3, 2, 1.
I feel something coming on. Do you feel the same way? I feel something coming on.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of OneTake. A lot of amazing, cool stuff has been happening, and so I'm going to take this opportunity to chat about a couple things. I'm going to be chatting a little bit about a blog post I wrote on what I've labeled the real black box problem when it comes to legal research. I'm going to chat a little bit about the AALL conference coming up. Actually, that blog post acts as a really great segue. I'm going to talk about a new announcement that we've announced Sedgwick as a great ROSS partner, and then I'm also going to chat very briefly about a little bit about where I just came from, like a morning breakfast AI legal event. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. So that's 4 things. Usually I do 3, David, but I'm going to do 4 today. So number 1 is a little bit more about the piece. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a review kind of, and with my own little take on a study by the director of the library over at the University of Colorado, Susan Mart. It was fantastic. And so David, if you could put a link maybe down low and check it out. Basically what the whole study is about, looking at various legal research tools and assessing the same query across each one of them, looking at the top 10 results and seeing, what came up. And what was really interesting about it is that in each one of those databases, it was different results. As a matter of fact, it showed that 40% of results were unique to each 6, which is crazy. But I think more telling was 2 other things, and I think these are really important things to highlight, which was, on the higher end, the best performing databases were still returning about 35 to 40% of their results being completely irrelevant, and the majority, being 4 out of the 2, were in the range of 60% of the results being irrelevant. And I'm going to touch why that's so important in a second, but the other thing I think is really important to highlight is the fact that Susan also found that typically in these databases, when they talk about natural language search, and this is something I've been talking about a lot at conferences and stuff, sometimes people will say, hey, but isn't there NLP already in these things? What she found is actually, and I'm going to use her quote because she says best, reference to natural language searching is frequently a misuse of a technical term that refers to a complex attempt to pattern and match speech or text through reference to a database with the aid of grammatical structure models. So actually a lot of that marketing on those other tools, it's not actually natural language processing. It's actually, either Boolean dressed up below some other things or some other things that have been creative. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's, people were trying to get to that point, but up until now, with the technology that we came from in the tradition of neural nets and deep learning that came out of the University of Toronto where ROSS was born, it just wasn't possible. So now what we do is true natural language processing, and that's something that hasn't been in the industry up to date. And so I mentioned the irrelevant scores and why I think that's important. Well, as some of you probably know, or maybe you don't, right now, in terms of the recovery costs for legal research time, the industry is at an all-time low. As a matter of fact, Mattern and Associates, a legal consultancy, did a great study, and they found that in 2016, and note we're already in 2017, it was at 25% recovery on legal research time. So that means that for every dollar that a firm is spending on legal research, associates time, etc., they were only collecting 25 cents in 2016. And the projection was that that recovery is going to hit 0 in 2020. So when you have tools bringing back, in some cases, the majority of their results being irrelevant or close to even on the higher end, that's a huge problem because all that time being spent you can't bill for, meaning you're losing money. And I think more importantly, just rather than dollars and cents, is that if you had the best results and you were able to get that much more efficiently, you can learn as a lawyer, as a researcher, and actually focus on what matters most. It's not about replacing a legal librarian. It's not about replacing that associate. It's about finding them the information they need efficiently so that they can do their jobs and be the best, law librarian or best lawyer they could be. So that's that study. It's very exciting. I touch on some other things. I also talk about how, really the black box issue sometimes with AI is people say, well, how can I trust it? Things go in and then results come out. But in reality, that's already happening in these different databases. And what's kind of interesting is that those databases had humans manually make these algorithms and models, whereas using the tools that we use at ROSS Intelligence, which relies on things like deep learning and neural networks, it's a man with machine method. And I hearken on Centaur chess all the time, but I think it's become very clear that when you have machine with human, it beats solo human all the time, or solo machine. And so check out the piece, it's down low. I had a ton of fun writing it. I've had great responses via email about it. And so that leads into this because, and this is number 2, Susan Mart, the author of the paper that I kind of talk about, the name of the paper being, for those out there, The Algorithm as a Human Artifact, Implications for Legal Research, is going to be the moderator next week at the AALL conference in Austin, Texas, where I'll be on a panel with Ed Walters from Fastcase, as well as Daniel Lewis from Ravel, which is going to be interesting, especially coming out of the Lexis acquisition, and Jake Heller of Casetech. So it's going to be kind of a fun panel. I'm really looking forward to it. And also, for those watching this video, just so you know, I will be doing something very fun and releasing something live at the event, and some information that I think everyone's going to love, especially around real stories about the practical use of ROSS and how those on the front lines are benefiting. So if you're there, don't worry about it. If you're not either, because it's going to be on Twitter, but watch out for it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. I'm going fast, David, because I don't know what time we're at, but the third thing that I wanted to talk about was, of course, a big announcement we just made with Sedgwick, a fantastic firm. We announced our partnership. David, if you can put the link to both the official Wire release as well as our piece down low. They're great. Their idea of a firm is that they are deliberately different, i.e. they're finding and really aiming to do things differently, and they're very much client focused. And how much more client focus can you get when it's about bringing efficiency and letting your attorneys and researchers perform at the highest possible level? We're really proud of that partnership, and we have some additional partnerships that I'll be announcing shortly, which are fantastic. So check that out as well. The last thing, if I can squeeze it in, number 4, is going to be about, I just came from a AI panel here in San Francisco, which was hosted by Squire Patton Boggs. Great to see a law firm stepping up and hosting this event. It was called, the AI show, and it was a briefing. Minor thing from that, someone, mentioned the fact that, we don't really have artificial intelligence these days, and it's really machine learning. I will say this, I think there's confusion around the term artificial intelligence, that's no doubt. I think what they meant to say is, we don't have general artificial intelligence, but we certainly have artificial intelligence. And, if you talk to the pioneers of deep learning, Jeff Hinton, Yeshua Bengio, et cetera, Yann LeCun, they say artificial intelligence. And so unless you know more about the field than the folks who pioneered it, it's also a matter of academics. Like if you go and you're a computer scientist, you're studying AI. I think let's not shy away from the use of it. Let's educate people, and let's spend that extra 2-3 minutes at explaining the difference rather than shying away from it altogether. So AI, as I've always talked about, encapsulates various different things. It's an umbrella term, and within that is machine learning, and within machine learning you got deep learning, and within that you kind of have neural nets. So that's a whole other piece, but I wanted to highlight that too. It was a great event. Squire Patton Boggs, great for hosting it, and looking forward to a couple things. ILTA's coming up in August as well, and David's going to be there with me. We're going to aim to do some live filming there, so that's going to be exciting. If you have a question that you want me to answer, or just something that you'd like me to chat about, do email. We've tried Smoke Signal, which was fun. David has that effect, which I love. Maybe it makes you kind of do more work. I'm sorry, I did it again. Maybe another one. And then you can tweet at me. You can email us. I'm always down to talk about these things. As you can tell, I'm really excited, and really looking forward to hearing from you out there. So check out the Black Box article. I think it's really cool. I'm biased, I wrote it. Number 2, of course, was AALL Watch Out. I'm gonna be dropping some really cool stuff at the event, which will be on Twitter, that you are all gonna be able to access. Number 3, check out the Sedgwick announcement. It's down low. And number 4, let's not shy away from the use of artificial intelligence. Let's trust that people will be able to educate themselves as to what it truly means. If the leaders in the field call it that, let's call it that, and let's spend an extra minute or 2 and actually define it. Machine learning is not separate. It's part of the umbrella term, and it's an exciting time. Thanks so much, everyone, and take care.